Hi there, welcome back to Garfin's creation. In today's recipe, I'll be using Amul butter just to make this Nankhatais and these cookies too, all with the same dough. So along with the Nankhatais, you can also make this crispy cookies too. All ingredients are mentioned in the description box below. So let's see how easy it is to make this recipe. We just need 3 ingredients for this. So this first ingredient is 250 grams ¼ kilo Maida, all-purpose flour. Measure it by cup, it will be a little less than 2 cups. Next, this is 3/4 cup of powdered sugar. I have used Burra sugar, that is Pitti sugar here. You can just grind some sugar in the mixie jar and use. The next ingredient is some melted Amul butter. This is a little more than 3/4 of a cup of melted butter. Butter is not too hot now. So first we'll begin by sieving the Maida. It's always best to sieve the flour. This will remove any impurities from the flour and make it a little light too. We will now just keep this flour aside for some time. And now let's measure the butter. Here I have taken 160 grams of Amul butter and melted it. So for those of you who will be using cups, this is a half cup. That is 100 ml. So this is the first half cup and the second half cup is a little less. So in total, you have to take a little more than 3/4 of a cup of melted butter. I have used Amul butter. You can use any other butter of your choice. If you're using unsalted butter, just add ¼ teaspoon of salt. In place of butter, you can also make the traditional Nankhatais by using melted ghee or vanaspati. Now into this melted butter, I'll be adding the sugar powder. I'll be sieving the sugar powder too here just to remove any lumps. If you do not have Burra sugar or Pitti sugar, you can just grind some sugar in the mixie jar and then sieve it. We have to use 3/4 cup of sugar, that is 110 grams. So now I'll use a hand whisk and whisk the butter and the sugar together till it is fully combined and it's nice, light and fluffy. You can also use an electric whisk over here. So we have to whisk this for about 3 to 4 minutes till it gets nice and pale. It's always good to weigh the measurements in grams and use it to get a perfect recipe. My previous Nankhatai recipe is the same. I just used grams over there. So I just try to convert the same recipe in cups today. If possible, always try to use a weighing scale for measuring. So after whisking this for about 3 to 4 minutes, the butter has got a little fluffy and pale in color. So now we'll be adding the Maida a little at a time. I had received a lot of comments saying can we substitute the vanaspati, that is the Dalda, with any butter or no. So in my previous festive Nankhatai recipe, I had used melted Dalda. So today I'm doing the same recipe with some Amul butter. We'll also be making some cookies with the same Nankhatai dough. So gradually I'll be adding the Maida a little at a time and then mixing it. Do not use an electric whisk for kneading this butter and the flour together. You get best Nankhatais when kneaded by hand. To get crispy Nankhatais, you do not have to knead the dough. You just need to gather the dough and combine it and get it together. So now I'll just use my hands and mix the dough and get it together. So just mixing it a little, the dough comes easily together. If you're going to bake these Nankhatais in an oven, you need to preheat your oven now 10 minutes before at 170 degrees centigrade. So if you're baking it over a gas stove too, you need to preheat your vessel 10 minutes before on medium flame. Now this dough has come together, I'll just put it on the silicone mat and just get it together. By doing so, the warmth of the hand makes the dough a little more softer. It becomes easier to make the Nankhatais when the dough is a little bit soft. So you see our dough has come together, it's nice, soft and manageable. So our dough is ready, let's start making the Nankhatais. First you need to prepare the baking tray. This tray I'll be baking over the gas stove, so I'll just place a butter paper over it. If you do not have butter paper, just brush some butter or oil and dust it with some flour. Just took a little portion of the dough. If you're going by weight, this would be approximate 18 grams. So I'll just tighten the dough by squeezing it in my hand and rolling it between my palms. And then rolling it tightly, just make it into a round ball. So here you get a nice and smooth crack-free Nankhatai. There is no need to flatten them. We will just place this on the baking tray. So here once again, let's make another Nankhatai too. So after squeezing it, just roll it between the palm of your hands. If you feel your Nankhatai is not forming into a ball, just applying pressure with both your palms, just roll the dough round. Doing so, the dough gets a little soft and you can make the Nankhatais easily then. To make the Nankhatais of the same size, you can use a tablespoon of dough for each time and roll it round. You can also use 18 grams of each dough and roll it. Now these Nankhatais are ready. I'll just put a silver edible sugar bead over them. You could also add a tiny piece of cherry or even any nuts of your choice. So this tray is ready now to be baked. So let's go over to the gas stove and I'll show you how to bake it over there. So here I have heated a large vessel for the last 10 minutes on medium flame. Also place a ring stand inside it so that we can place a tray over it. Try and use a thick vessel for baking this. After placing the tray, you need to cover it with a heavy lid. So depending on the size of the vessel and your tray, we will just bake this on medium to low flame for around 10 to 15 minutes. But do check this after 10 minutes. If you see a little browning on the sides, it's time to take it out. So this has taken me approximate 14 minutes. So do keep a watch and adjust your flame from medium to low. Now we'll just keep this on a cooling rack to cool down completely. Do not try to lift them while they are still hot or they might break. So with the rest of the dough, let's make some cookies too. So you can see with the same dough, you can make Nankhatais and cookies as well. To roll this dough, I'm using 2 butter papers. And I will roll it to a thickness of 1 centimeter. Since the weather is not too hot, I had not kept the dough in the fridge. The dough is at room temperature only. So if you do not prefer making cookies, you can make all the Nankhatais with the same way as shown. So in between, I'll just make the edges smooth so that there is less wastage and we can cut out more cookies at one time. If you prefer, you could also add color to this dough and make different types of colored cookies. Like for the Christmas tree, you could add green color to make green Christmas trees. You could also make the dough yellow to make some stars with it. Also decorate it later once the cookies are baked. So here I am using these plunger cookie cutters. It's a Christmas set and we'll just cut out some cookies from it. Or you can use any of these cookie cutters too. Whichever cutters you use, just dip it in a little flour and then cut it from the dough. As said earlier, if you do not have these cookie cutters, you can make the normal Nankhatais too. Do you remember when we were small, we used to ask our mom to color the Nankhatais. My mom used to make pink, green and white Nankhatais too. It used to really look very colorful on the Christmas platter. So here you see, you can make these cookies so easily with the same dough. To bake these cookies, I'll just place a butter paper on a baking tray and then place the cookies over it. Just check out the thickness of the dough, which I previously forgot to show you all. Continue making all of the cookies in the same way and placing it on the tray apart from each other. We have not used any baking powder or baking soda for this Nankhatai. Since we had whisked the butter and the sugar well, these Nankhatais just do rise a little. So just place them a little away from each other while placing them on the baking tray. If your cookies do not come out along with the cutter, use a knife below the dough and lift the cookies. So here now I'll show you how I place them over the tray, and the tray, this one, I'm going to bake it in the oven. I'll be baking it in the preheated oven at 170 degrees centigrade, lower heating coil on. Take around 10 to 12 minutes. And the remaining dough you can gather again and make a ball of it and start rolling it, making more cookies, or you can also make more Nankhatais. Besides baking these cookies in the oven, you can bake them in the same way as we have baked the Nankhatais over the gas stove too. So here I'll be making one more tray of Nankhatais, and this tray I'll be baking in the oven. Only make a note that while baking these round Nankhatais, you should bake them in a separate tray and bake the flat cookies in another separate tray, as you require more baking time for these round Nankhatais compared to those flat cookies. Nankhatais would take around 10 to 15 minutes in a preheated oven at 170 degrees centigrade with lower heating coil on. So those flat cookies in the oven have taken me around 11 to 12 minutes. These Nankhatais were baked over the gas stove. You can see you can bake good Nankhatais over the gas stove too. These are the ones which were baked in the oven. This took me approximate 14 minutes. So I'll just show you how these are baked in the oven. We will let these Nankhatais cool completely on the cooling rack. Once they are cool, you can place them in an airtight box and they remain good for 10 to 12 days. You could also decorate these cookies with some royal icing. The net weight of these cookies and Nankhatais is 475 grams approximate. Do check out the description box for the entire recipe in grams and in cups. So let's break this cookie and see how crispy they are. So go ahead and make your Christmas platter even more beautiful with these cookies and Nankhatais. Let's break this one Nankhatai that was baked over the gas stove too. I do hope you all like this recipe, and I'll surely put the link for the previous Nankhatai recipe too. There are many more Christmas sweets recipes to watch. Putting the playlist at the end of this video too. Thanks for watching, and please do subscribe to Garfin's Creation. And I'll see you again in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.